What causes people to fail is not that they lack dreams. It is that they always believe there will still be enough time tomorrow. That belief sounds harmless, but it is precisely what has quietly taken away the future of so many people one day at a time. Not through big disastrous decisions, but through small delays, repeated every day. You can work hard, you can be busy from morning to night, but if today you are not truly taking action for your future, then all that effort is only keeping you in the same place year after year. Time is not cruel. It does not judge your dreams. It does not care what you once promised yourself. Time simply flows silently and asks a very simple question. Today, what have you done for your tomorrow? Life is like a seed buried deep in the ground. No one sees it. No one acknowledges it. But with each passing day, that seed is either nourished or slowly dies in silence. Dreams are the same. If they are not watered by action today, they will wither before they ever sprout. I still remember very clearly my early years. I worked hard. I learned nonstop. But there were periods when I felt like I was walking in the dark, unnoticed, unrecognized, and with results coming very slowly. And then I realized something important. The future is not built by perfect plans, but by small actions repeated every day. Most people do not fail because they set their goals too high. They fail because they postpone the smallest actions. They wait until things are clearer. They wait until conditions are better. But while they are waiting, time quietly takes away their energy, their opportunities, and their youth. In today's video, I want to share with you the core principles that help you understand why vision determines the future, and why action today is the only bridge that leads you to the life you want. If you have ever felt stuck, if you are afraid that you are wasting your most precious years, then this video is for you. And stay until the end, because the final principle is the key that can open an entirely different future starting today. Principle 1, time does not ask if you have dreams. It only asks if you take action. There is a truth that very few people want to face. Time does not care how big you dream. It does not ask what promises you once made to yourself. It does not wait until you are ready. Time simply moves on every day, every hour, and demands one thing: action. Many people tell me they have dreams. They want a better life. They want more freedom. They want more options for themselves and their families. But when I ask them, what did you do today for that dream? The answer is often silence. Not because they are lazy, but because they believe in a very dangerous promise. There will still be enough time tomorrow. And that belief puts them to sleep one day at a time. You see, time is not your enemy, but it is also not a patient friend who waits for you forever. Time is like a river. If you do not swim in the direction you want, the current will decide where you end up. I have met many talented people. They are smart. They have potential. They have dreams far greater than the lives they are living, but they always delay the first step. They wait until they feel more confident. They wait until they have more information. They wait until everything is perfect. And while they are waiting, time decides for them. I once spoke with a man in his 60s. He looked back on his life and said, if only I had started earlier, not with grand steps, just starting while he still had health, energy, and belief. 30 years ago, he had dreams too. 30 years ago, he also believed that tomorrow would be a better time. But that tomorrow never came. This is what you need to understand clearly. Dreams do not disappear overnight. They die slowly every time you choose not to act today. You do not lose your future because of one big wrong decision. You lose it because of thousands of small decisions. Decisions that say, tomorrow, not yet, too busy today. Time does not favor small visions. If each day you do not devote even a little effort to nurturing your dream, that vision will shrink. Not because you are weak, but because anything that is not used will weaken. I learned this very early. Small actions, repeated daily, are always more powerful than perfect plans that are never executed. You do not need to see the entire path. You only need to take one right step today. Many people wait for motivation before they act, but the truth is the opposite. Action creates motivation. Motivation creates belief. And belief, over time, expands your vision. When you act today, even with a small step, you send yourself a powerful message: I am serious about my future. And every day you repeat that message, who you are begins to change. I made the same mistakes as many others. I procrastinated. I thought I had plenty of time. But when I stopped waiting and started acting even imperfectly, everything began to shift. Life does not reward those who think the most. It rewards those who act consistently. And if there is one question you should ask yourself at the end of each day, it is this: today, what did I do, even something small, to move closer to the life I want? Because if you do not act today, then tomorrow, no matter how big your dreams are, time will continue to move on without waiting for you. Principle 2. Procrastination does not kill you immediately. It kills you slowly. There is something very dangerous that most people do not realize. Procrastination rarely causes immediate pain. It does not knock you down in a single day. It does not make your life collapse after one decision. Procrastination is far quieter than that and far more ruthless. Procrastination is like a mild anesthetic. Every time you say tomorrow, you do not feel anything too bad. Life is still fine. Work still gets done. You still have reasonable excuses for every delay. And because of that, you keep procrastinating. Not everyone who is stuck is miserable. Many of them are fine. They have steady income. They have acceptable lives. They are not in enough pain to be forced to change, but they are also not moving forward enough to truly live. This is the most dangerous trap I have ever witnessed in my life. A life that is just enough to survive, but not enough to grow. I have met many people who told me, I will start when things are more stable. I will change when I have more time. Quote, I will act when conditions are better. It sounds reasonable. But do you know what never arrives? The perfect time is a very subtle illusion. It makes you believe you are waiting for something right, when in reality, you are handing the authority over your life to time. I remember once speaking with a man who had just turned 60. He was not poor. He was not a total failure. But there was something in his eyes that was hard to hide regret. He told me that for more than 30 years, he always believed he still had time. He waited until his children were older. He waited until his career was more stable. He waited until things felt less risky. And then one day, he realized time had taken away his energy, his health, and the opportunities he once believed would always be there. This is the truth you need to hear, even if it is uncomfortable. Waiting is a very polite form of self-destruction. No one criticizes you. No one opposes you. You are still seen as reasonable. But day by day, your future shrinks slowly but surely. Procrastination does not make you fail immediately. It simply ensures that you never become what you could have been. You do not need to make a big mistake to lose your life. You only need enough times choosing comfort over discipline, enough days saying tomorrow instead of start now. And the saddest part is this: when the consequences of procrastination finally appear, it is often too late to return to the starting point. I made that mistake myself. I once thought I could delay a few important decisions without paying a price. But I learned this: life always charges interest on every delayed debt. You may not pay today. You may not pay tomorrow. But one day, life sends the bill, and that bill is always bigger than you expect. If there's one thing I want you to remember from this principle, it is this: every day you do not act, you are training yourself to accept a smaller future. Not because you are incapable, but because you have grown accustomed to not demanding more from yourself. And the important question is not, are you procrastinating? But what are you procrastinating, and how many years of your life is it taking from you? Because once you face this truth directly, you will understand that the problem is not that you did not act fast enough. It is that you have waited far too long. Principle 3, if you do not take action every day, your vision will shrink. There is a quiet rule that governs human life that very few people pay attention to. Anything that is not nurtured daily will weaken. Your body works this way. Your skills work this way. And your vision works the same way. Many people believe that vision is something you only need once. They think that dreaming big, writing goals on paper, or feeling inspired is enough. But vision is not a moment. Vision is a relationship, and every relationship needs to be cared for. When you do not act on your vision every day, what happens? It does not disappear immediately. It simply grows smaller. Like a fire that is not fed with wood, it does not go out right away, but it weakens until only ashes remain. I have seen this repeat itself in many people. When they are young, they have vision, they have passion. They believe their lives can become much better. But then life intervenes. Work gets busy. Bills need to be paid. Responsibilities increase. And very slowly, very subtly, their vision begins to shrink to fit their current comfort. They do not give up on their dreams. They just adjust them to be more realistic. They do not say they do not want more. They simply say, this is good enough. But listen to me when I say this. Enough to survive is the most dangerous level of vision a person can accept because it does not hurt you. But it also does not pull you out of bed each morning with excitement. It makes each day feel fine and then turns into years passing quietly. Not taking action every day does not just slow you down. It trains your mind to accept less. Less effort, less discipline, lower expectations of yourself. And the most dangerous part is this. You do not realize it is happening. I have been in that state myself. There were periods when I was not lazy. I was still working, but I was no longer doing the things that truly expanded my future. I was doing what was necessary to maintain, not to grow. And then I realized this. You do not lose your vision because of one big wrong decision. You lose it because you do not make enough right decisions each day. Vision is not expanded by thinking. It is expanded by action. Every small action you take today, even if no one sees it, sends your mind a message. My life is worth this effort. But if you do not send that message often enough, your mind will send back a different message. Maybe I do not need more than this. Quote. And then your vision shrinks to fit that message. This is why I always say, small daily actions matter far more than rare big plans. You do not need to change your entire life in one day, but you do need to prove to yourself that you are still moving forward. One small step today is stronger than a perfect intention for tomorrow. One disciplined action today is stronger than an inspiring promise that is never kept. When you act every day, your vision is not just kept alive, it begins to grow. You start to see more possibilities. You start to believe you can go further, not because you are more imaginative, but because you now have evidence from your own actions. And here's the question I want you to truly reflect on. What did you do today, even something very small, to nurture your vision? Not tomorrow, not when you have more time, not when things become easier. Because if you do not act today, your vision will not disappear. It will simply continue to shrink. Principle 4. Small actions repeated long enough always beat perfect plans. Many people fail not because they lack intelligence, but because they spend too much time planning and too little time acting. They want everything to be clear. They want to see the entire path before taking a step. They want to be certain that their effort will produce results. And while they are still thinking, weighing options, adjusting, life quietly moves on without them. I learned a very important lesson in life. Life does not reward perfect plan. It rewards repeated actions. A plan can look very good on paper. It can make you feel like you are making progress. But if it is not translated into daily action, it is simply a more subtle form of procrastination. Small actions do not sound impressive. No one applauds a small step. No one recognizes you for the ordinary things you do every day. But that is exactly why small actions have such great power. They are easy to sustain. Many people set goals that are too big for a single day. They are excited. They are determined, but after a few days, they are exhausted. And when they cannot maintain that intensity, they conclude, maybe I am not disciplined enough. The truth is, the problem is not who you are. It is the strategy you chose. Life does not change through rare bursts of effort. It changes through small but consistent efforts. Like saving money. You do not need a large amount at the beginning. You need the habit of putting money in every day. I have seen people with very few initial advantages. Little money, few connections, few opportunities, go much further than people with far better conditions. Not because they were smarter, but because they did not wait for everything to be perfect before starting. They started when things were still messy. They started when they lacked confidence. They started when the results were unclear. And that action, repeated long enough, created the difference. One small action today, reading a few pages of a book, writing down an idea, practicing a skill for a few minutes, or simply making a disciplined decision may not change your life immediately, but it changes your direction. And direction, over time, matters far more than speed. Many people underestimate the power of doing a little every day because they only look at short-term results. But life is built on compound interest. Small efforts, repeated long enough, create results greater than any grand strategy that is never executed. I used to think I needed to do something big to feel like I was moving forward. But then I realized real progress is often very quiet. There is no applause. There is no immediate recognition. There is only you, your discipline, and the decision to repeat one right action every day. And here is something very few people understand. Small actions do not only create external results, they also create the person inside you. Every time you do what you committed to do, you build trust with yourself. Every time you keep a small promise, you become a more trustworthy person in your own eyes. And when you begin to believe in yourself, your vision naturally expands. Do not ask, is this action big enough? Ask instead, can I do this every day? Because what you can do every day will determine who you become in a few years. One small action, repeated long enough, is always stronger than a perfect plan that is never executed. And if you are waiting for inspiration to begin, remember this: inspiration usually comes after action, not before it. Principle 5. Tomorrow is the biggest thief of dreams. If there is one word that has stolen more dreams than any other enemy, it is not failure. It is not circumstances. It is a word that sounds harmless. Tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll start. Tomorrow I'll change. Tomorrow I'll take my life more seriously. And that tomorrow always gets pushed to the next day. Tomorrow does not scare you. It does not make you tense. It gives you a false sense of security that everything is still under control. But that is exactly why it becomes the most dangerous thief, because it takes your future without ever needing violence. I have met many people who live their entire lives with the word tomorrow. They are not bad. They are not lazy. They simply always believe they still have time. And then one day, they look back, not with anger, but with a very deep sadness. I clearly remember a man I spoke with when he was already over 60. He was not poor. He was not a failure in the usual sense. But there was something in his eyes that money could not hide. Regret. He told me that when he was young, he had dreams too. He wanted to do more, to live a bigger life. But every time an opportunity appeared, he would say, tomorrow. Not yet. Not convenient right now. 30 years passed very quickly. And when he realized that tomorrow was not as plentiful as he had thought, time had taken from him his energy, his health, and even the courage to begin. This is the truth you need to hear. Tomorrow is never guaranteed. We only assume it will come. None of us wakes up each morning with a promise that we still have 10 more years. We just wake up and hope. But life does not run on hope. It runs on what you do today. Tomorrow makes you underestimate the value of today. It makes you think one day passing does not matter. But the truth is, each day you postpone, you are teaching yourself that your dreams are not important enough to act on. You do not have to miss one big opportunity to fail. You just have to miss enough small opportunities each time because of the word tomorrow. Quote, and the most painful part is this: when you finally are ready to act, often you no longer have the same starting point. You can still begin, but you will begin with less time, less energy, and sometimes fewer choices. I used to think I could delay some important decisions without paying a price, but I learned that life always charges interest on every delayed debt. Not today, not tomorrow, but certainly one day. And when that bill arrives, it does not ask whether you are ready or not. If you want to know where someone will end up a few years from now, do not ask them about their dreams. Ask them, what do you usually do with the word tomorrow? Because your future is not decided by what you intend to do. It is decided by what you do today. If there is one thing I want you to remember from this principle, it is this: do not hand your life over to a word that never keeps its promises. You do not need to change your entire life today, but you do need to stop saying tomorrow to the most important things. Because every time you say tomorrow, you are allowing your dreams to be stolen very quietly. Principle 6. Taking action for 5 minutes a day has the power to change your destiny. After people realize the cost of procrastination, the next question always appears: where do I start? And many people give up right there. Not because they do not want to change, but because they think they need to do something huge to make up for the years they have wasted. They think that if they start, they have to start strong, different, perfect. But this is one of the biggest misunderstandings I have ever seen. Life does not change because of great first steps. It changes because of small steps repeated. Many people underestimate the power of 5 minutes because 5 minutes does not create immediate results. It is not enough to impress. It is not enough to make you feel like you have done something big. But that is exactly why 5 minutes is dangerous. It is not scary. And anything that is not scary is easy to start. You do not need 5 hours a day to change your life. You need 5 minutes a day to prove that you are still serious about your future. Think about this. Can you procrastinate for 5 minutes? Most people answer no, because when you say just 5 minutes, your brain does not fight back. It does not make excuses. It is not afraid of failure. And that is when you get past the biggest barrier to action, the initial resistance. I have met many people who say they do not have enough motivation. But motivation is not something you need before you act. Small action creates small motivation. Small motivation, repeated, creates belief. And belief over time creates big change. That is why small habits are so powerful. Not because the action itself is big, but because of the person you become when you repeat it every day. When you spend 5 minutes a day learning, you are not just accumulating knowledge, you are becoming someone who values growth. When you spend 5 minutes a day practicing a skill, you are not just improving your ability. You are building the identity of someone who does not quit. And when you spend 5 minutes a day doing what is right, you are sending yourself a very clear message. I am someone who keeps promises to myself. Many people fail not because they lack time, but because they wait for a perfect amount of time. But life does not give you ideal stretches of time. It gives you very small moments and asks what you will do with them. 5 minutes today may not change your life, but 5 minutes a day for a year will create a very different person. Not because of the result of each day, but because of the direction of the entire year. I used to think I needed to feel ready before I began, but I learned this. Readiness comes after action, not before it. You do not have to believe you will succeed. You only have to believe you can spare 5 minutes. And when you do that today, tomorrow becomes a little easier. Then the next day, and very slowly, very surely, you will realize you are no longer the same person. If there's one thing I want you to remember from this principle, it is this. Do not underestimate what you can do in 5 minutes, because your life is built from moments that small. And the final question for you is, today, what will you use those 5 minutes for to nurture your future? Principle 7, a big or small future is not determined by your starting point. One of the most common limiting beliefs I have ever heard is this. If I had been born into better circumstances, my life would be different. Many people believe that your starting point determines your destination. They look at successful people and say, he was luckier. She had more advantages. They started earlier than I did. But let me say this clearly. Your starting point does not determine your future. It only explains your past. Life does not ask where you started. It asks which direction you keep going. I have met people who started with very few advantages. Little money, few connections, few opportunities. But they still went much farther than many people who had better conditions than they did. Not because they were more special, but because they did not use their starting point as a reason to stop. On the other hand, I have also seen many people with early advantages. They had resources, they had opportunities, they had support. But years passed and their lives still stood still. Not because they lacked ability, but because they did not expand their vision over time. You see, a starting point is just a number. Vision is the direction, and in life, direction matters far more than your initial position. Many people limit themselves by saying, I'm not as good as other people. I don't have a strong background. I'm too late. But the truth is, you are not too late. You just have not started seriously yet. When you begin taking action every day, when you repeat small steps, your vision will gradually change. You begin to see possibilities you did not see before, not because the world changed, but because the way you look at the world changed. I used to believe I had to reach a certain level, enough money, enough knowledge, enough confidence, before I could allow myself to dream bigger. But I learned that vision is not the reward at the end of the road. It is the fuel for the whole journey. When you choose a vision bigger than your current reality, you force yourself to grow. You force yourself to learn. You force yourself to become more disciplined. Not because someone is pushing you, but because that vision requires you to become a different person. Your starting point does not demand that you change. It only demands that you accept it. But vision is different. Vision always pulls you forward. Many people say they are being realistic, but sometimes what they call realistic is simply fear disguised very skillfully. They call shrinking their dreams maturity. But in reality, it is just how they avoid facing the effort required. I am not saying you should daydream unrealistically. I am saying you should allow yourself to see beyond your current circumstances. Because if your vision is not bigger than your present, you will not have a strong enough reason to change your habits today. You do not need to start with absolute confidence. You do not need to know for sure where you will end up. You only need to refuse to let your starting point define your limits. Every small action you take today, no matter how modest your starting point is sending life a signal. I am not bound by where I began. And over time, life will respond to that signal. Not immediately, not loudly, but very surely. If there is one question I want you to reflect on from this principle, it is this. Are you living according to your starting point or according to the vision you can build? Because whether your future is big or small is not determined by where you stand today, but by the direction you choose to move in each day. Principle 8, the formula for expanding your future. Action, motivation, belief, vision. After observing people for many years, I realized that life does not change in a straight line. It operates in a loop. And that loop, if you understand it correctly, can either expand or shrink your entire future. Most people believe they need a big vision first, then belief, then motivation, and finally action. But that is exactly why they get stuck. Because in reality, the loop of change always begins with action. Not big action, not perfect action, but an action small enough that you can do it today. When you take action, even a very small one, the first thing it creates is not an external result, but internal motivation. You begin to feel like you are moving. You begin to feel like you are no longer standing still. And that feeling, even if it is subtle, breaks the stagnant state that so many people are trapped in for years. Motivation is not an explosive emotion. It is simply the feeling, I'm moving in the right direction. And that feeling, if repeated, creates belief. Belief does not come from affirmations. It does not come from telling yourself, you can do it. Belief comes from evidence. Evidence that you acted yesterday. Evidence that you kept a small promise to yourself. Every small action you complete is a brick that builds your belief. And when belief begins to form, something very interesting happens. Your vision naturally expands. You begin to see more possibilities. You begin to believe you can go farther. Not because you are more of a dreamer, but because you now have living proof that you are making progress. And when your vision expands, it creates a stronger reason to act again. The loop starts to spin faster, deeper, stronger. This is how people truly change their lives. Action, motivation, belief, vision, bigger action. And if you look back, you will see the opposite is also true. When you do not act, you lose motivation. When you lose motivation, belief weakens. And when belief weakens, your vision shrinks to fit your current stagnation. That is why so many people do not fail loudly. They just get smaller over time. I used to believe I needed certainty before I took a step, but I learned that certainty comes after action, not before it. You do not need to see your entire future today. You only need to see the next step. And that next step, repeated, will lead you to places you do not even dare to imagine today. Life does not require you to become great in a single day. It only requires you not to betray your future today. When you act every day, even very small, you are sending life a very clear signal. I am serious about the person I want to become. And life always responds to signals like that. Not fast, not loudly, but very fairly. If there is one thing I want you to carry with you after this video, it is this. Do not wait for a bigger vision before you act. Act so your vision can grow. Because your future is not decided by what you dream. It is decided by the loop you build every day. And that loop begins with your next small action today. If you have listened this far, you have probably realized something very important. Your future is not decided by what you hope for, but by what you do every day. It is not a big vision that changes your life immediately, not explosive motivation, not one emotional, momentary decision, but small actions repeated long enough, guided by a vision bigger than your current reality. We talked about time and the cost of procrastination. We faced the word tomorrow, the silent thief of dreams. We understood that small daily action has greater power than any perfect plan. And finally, you have seen clearly the loop that determines the future. Action, motivation, belief, vision. The most important thing I want you to remember is not a nice quote. It is a very specific choice. Will you keep living like today, or will you start acting for the person you could become? You do not need to change your entire life right now. You just need to not betray your future today. One small action, one disciplined decision, one right step, even if no one sees it. If these lessons resonated with you, hit like to spread this message to more people. And if you are serious about your personal growth journey, subscribe to the Rohn Treasures channel, where we build mindset, discipline, and vision together to live a life with intention. I want to ask you one question, and truly think before you answer. What small action will you take today to invest in your future? Write it down in the comments. Making a verbal commitment is the first step of action. I will end this video with a quote I always remember. You and I both have a gift today. Use it wisely. I truly appreciate you staying until the end of this video. We will see each other again in the next video, where the journey of building a bigger future continues from today.